Hello everyone and welcome back to the TAPED podcast, the most glowing podcast in the world. I'm your host Nostalgia, and joining me as always is my co-host
MickyT.
And we have two special guests. Both have appeared before and both are from albumoftheyear.com. Please introduce yourself in any order. Fight for number one.
I took my shirt off and I lost it. Anyways, I'm Charlise.
And it's me, Josh, again.
Ew, go away.
And you said albumoftheyear.com instead of .org.
Oh,
.org,
.org, sorry. Fucking .org.
Oh,
Who uses .org anyways? What is it? A government website.
Yeah.
Today,
Government mandated album of the year.
What are we doing today, guys?
We're going to be doing a worst to best on the microphones.
Woo!
Woo!
Clap.
Whoa!
Nice.
And we're also going to be including Song Islands in this ranking.
Yay!
Yeah.
So that leaves us with 6 albums overall.
Yep, we're just going to be going through our, obviously, you know the drill, individual rankings, give our thoughts and opinions. And yeah, let's hope no one bitches to each other this episode.
I fucking hate you guys already. I don't even hear your rankings. I'm leaving. Goodbye.
I'm sorry, please.
I gotta go to my yard and take my shirt off.
Please, we need content. Come back.
Fine, I'll consider it.
Yeah.
Put your shirt back on, please. We need you.
You're a lady. You can't do that.
So yeah, I think we should get right into it. Will we go in the same order we usually do? Which one of you wants to go first? Well, after me and Nostalgia.
I mean, I can go first.
Alright, yeah.
Yeah.
Rock, paper, scissors for it.
Yeah.
I'm a little out of it right now, so I think Josh should go first.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I'm going first.
Alright, so, yeah. Alright, my number 6 pick is Song Islands.
My number 6 pick is also Song Islands.
Oh, man. I'm gonna get killed. my number 6 pick is Mount Erie.
Excuse me,
don't worry. Mine too.
Yes.
Mine too. Don't worry.
Oh man, I'm sitting here like
You know what, Josh? You could just change your thing right now, yeah? You could just go back and change it, please, for the love of honor. Fuck,
Mount
change
Erie's
it.
a 7. Mount Erie's a 7. Mount Erie's a 7. Mount Erie's a 7.
Oh wait, let me change it.
It's a fucking 10.
Mount Erie.
It's a 7.
Mount
10.
Erie, change it real quick. 75. Okay, there you go. I changed it.
This is. Why do we have it at the same fucking score?
I don't know.
All these Sims coming after me, God.
Oh man, it's unreal.
Well,
Anyways.
Let's start with Song Island, and then
Yeah.
maybe you'll get an explanation at the end.
I better fucking get one, okay? Anyways,
Sorry.
So yeah, anyway, Song Islands
I'm
is a Microphones compilation album that has some collections of Microphones releases and singles, and for the most part, I like this project. I think that it does what it wants to do well with success, as a lot of these songs are very good in my opinion. Some of them are genuinely some of my favorite Microphone songs on here. But I feel like for the most part, it's good, but I can't help but feel like it's a little bit forgettable in some aspects. Like, there are songs that I think are great, but there are a fair few that I don't care for, whether that be because they're of demo quality or they're just lackluster. Sonically, it covers a lot, I'll give it that, but as a whole, I personally don't see this compilation as very essential in the grander scheme of the Microphones. Like, why would I choose to listen to this when I could listen to The Glow Part 2 or Mount Erie, or hell, even a number of Phil's projects in Mount Erie? I mean, I just don't get a whole lot from it as a whole, but I'll acknowledge that there is quality to be had here. That's all I really need to say.
Yeah, I think the project is decent, but I think ultimately it has too many flaws to live up to literally any other Microphones project in my eyes. To give it some credit, a lot of the flaws can be kind of explained away by the fact that it is a compilation and not a fully fledged studio album. but there are still things about it that take away from the enjoyment, and most of that has to do with the fact that this whole album has a lot of duds, has a lot of very unmemorable track, some sloppy ideas, and it just feels a bit disjointed, and at times it's a bit of a slog to listen through. It does have some amazing songs in here and there, but ultimately it's just not really that essential to me.
All right.
We've got an uphill battle. you and
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let me. Oh God.
Go on.
Right. Let me start off right now. Okay. I like this album. Let me just set the record straight. It's out of 7. I like the album, but I think it sounds very nice, and it sounds like very refined compared to like a couple of their previous projects. But this album is a little too self-indulgent for my taste. I think the part of the thing that is interesting about this album to me is this band went from making like pretty short songs. They made 4 or 5 minute songs, and a couple 6+ minute songs. But other than that, they were making very short songs. And I don't have an issue with long songs, but on this album, the long songs are like just way too long, and they do not hold my attention at all. Like I'm sorry, but The Sun does not need to be 17 minutes. It really doesn't.
Thank you. Oh my god, I thought I was insane.
Let's see, I seriously skip like the first 6 minutes of the song just to get to when they first start singing. I mean, again, here's the thing. I like songs. I have songs that I like that are just as long and that do take a little bit of time to get going. But there's just not enough for me to keep my attention. I just sit there every single time listening to this song. Like I just want it to start, and then I want it to end. And I think like some songs like Mount Erie, which they're good. There's good parts in it, but again, it's like it just kind of stretches itself out, and I think the album just kind of just loses itself in its own it's just trying. It loses itself in its experimentation, and I think that's just where it falters for me.
Yeah, I mean, he put my thoughts pretty well. My way of wording my problem with Mount Erie is very much that it just gets lost in its own vibe a lot of the time. It's atmospheric, but not in like a way that really is super compelling to me. I like the album, and I do think it's good. It's just, it meanders so much, and it just focuses so much on just like ambient buildup to where there's not really a payoff, especially on The Sun. Like every time I have listened to that song, I'm like, that's a good song, but why is it 17 minutes? Like it could be maybe 10 max. Really, I think it should only be like 7 minutes, but there's just so much time basically wasted on building up to something that just if you build up so much and the payoff isn't worth that long of a build up, it's like, it's not very satisfying, And that's just like my big issue with the project, is it does that a lot. It's still good, and I have it at like a 7. I like it, but I just like it less than their other albums.
Okay.
Man.
Anyway. MickyT found dead.
I'm not. I'm. All right. Look, I'm just gonna fat disagree with that. Okay. I'll respect your opinion and all, but you're wrong.
First it's To Be Kind, now it's Mount Erie. I'm 2 for 2, baby.
To be fair, I'm not as annoyed as where you put To Be Kind, because that made no sense to me.
That was an iconic.
That was
moment
just
in the
based, you know it.
That was just unbased. I don't know what
That
you
was
mean.
just super based.
No, that was incredibly unbased.
I'm
Little B
based.
curses you. Little B fucking curses you.
Little B loves me, thank you.
No, Little B loves us all. Thank you, base god.
Thank you, base. Do you think Phil Everlund likes Little B?
I don't know, let's ask him.
I hope.
Hello, it's me, Phil Everlund. I do in fact love the bass god.
Thank you.
Anyways,
you
I'm
ever
gonna
see
go
that,
cry.
Review with Phil where he's just shitposting with this random guy.
Does that exist?
Yeah, where he's just like, I think one of the questions was like, if you could have a review or a music critic say anything about you, what would you want them to say, or something like that? And then Phil just goes on and lists a bunch of random shite like, has a Costco membership.
Yeah,
I
I've
want
seen
to
that.
see that.
No,
Yeah,
that's
And then
based.
at the end, the guy is like trying to roleplay with him, and it's just the weirdest video ever because it just feels like something that Phil would absolutely not be down to do, but like he plays the whole thing off, like he joins in on all the shit posting.
That's a good interview.
That's incredible. I need
That's
to.
not
I
really
need
an
to find
interview.
Phil gives off the energy of the kind of guy that would like burst into tears mid-interview, not that.
No, there's a point where he started laughing, which is rare.
He can laugh.
You sure can.
Oh Jesus. Yeah, anyways, I think we'll just move on to best and worst tracks. I want to
Yeah.
see that interview. Actually, I want that. I want to witness this.
I'll grab it for you.
All right, just DM it to me.
Yeah.
Anyways, my favorite tracks from Song Islands are Bass Drum Drum, Where It's Hotter, Parts 1, 2, and 3, Feedback, Weird Storm, I Can't Believe You Actually Died, Pearl, Diver, The Moon, Lanterns, and Antlers. My least favorite tracks are Storm and Phil Elverum's Will.
My favorite tracks on Song Islands are Bass Drum Dream, Where It's Hotter, The Moon version, and The Glow Part 4. My least favorite tracks were Eyes, Lanterns, and Antlers.
Finally, the glow part 4.
My favorites from Mount Erie were Solar System and the first Universe track. My least favorite was The Sun, I'll Throw You a Bone, Solar System, top 5 microphone songs for
Why
sure.
are you stealing my opinions?
What?
The same favorites and least favorites, same score.
I mean, I explained in my explanation that was those songs that I left off were like my problems. So first Universe
Motherfucker,
song,
We'd be on the same wavelength.
because I mean the first Universe song is I think that's the perfect amount of length, but then I think the second one is like a little like with what it's trying to go for.
I'm upset. Fucking.
But
hell.
again, Solar System is one of the best microphone songs. Please, like,
Yeah, Solar System and Universe are good. Like, those
Yeah.
are the favorites.
The Sun slander. Jesus.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I'd put Sun On in the club, to be fair. It's kind of a banger. The hose be
Clear
dropping
number
to it.
5.
Yeah, let's get to our number 5 fix. My number 5 is Don't Wake Me Up.
Mick, I'm sorry I chose Mount Erie.
Why?
Based.
Oh, fucking hell.
Okay, man. Woo, this is a good episode.
This is not a good episode.
All right, my number 5 pick was also Don't Wake Me Up.
Mine was Don't
Thank
Wake Me Up.
you. Thank you. Fucking hell.
Alright, it's 3v1 now.
Yeah.
So wait, everyone chose Don't Wake Me Up. So.
It's still a 3v1
Yeah.
anyway,
I mean,
because
okay.
all of you put Mount Erie so low.
Okay, I feel bad about putting Don't Wake Me Up so low, though, because it's like an 8. Like, it's great. I feel very guilty, but...
I think it's great too. I have an 8 as well. Alright.
I'll go Mount Erie first, and then let everyone talk about Don't Wake Me Up.
Yeah, go on. Explain yourself.
First of all, I do really like this album, and second of all, I'll defend the sun. I think that track warrants every second of it.
Thank you.
I think it's a
Thank you.
masterpiece.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
The album itself, I think, is probably one of Phil's most unrestrained and experimental albums in his whole discography. And even if it isn't my personal favorite, I think there's a lot to love about this project. Its soundscapes are just mesmerizing. They range from just bittersweet guitar strumming, as you know, as a lot of Microphones records tend to. But there's also just so many moments that have like stuff that you wouldn't hear on any other Microphones record, like the completely unhinged tribal drumming. It's just a very unique album in Phil's discography. But I will admit that the album for me sometimes just delves so deep into the avant-garde that it is a little hard to digest, and it does bring it down a bit personally. But ultimately, I think those moments are quite scarce in between, and it's still a great album. I just prefer a lot of his earlier stuff to this one. I still very much like the album though.
Good.
You gonna share, Mickey?
Mickey has passed away.
Is he there? Oh, there.
Oh, I am so fucking mad. You don't understand.
MickyT stuff.
Who's the salty bitch now?
Okay.
This is what you get for putting Diamond Eye so low.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but I like Diamond
Did you?
Eyes. I like it. It's just so basic compared to the rest of Deftones'
I like
Put it
discography.
at
Leary.
I'm gonna drown you in a vial of acid.
Honestly, same.
We can be drowning buddies.
This is, you know what? This is content. I like this.
Sudden realization.
CLJesse
the pain is all
threatens
worth it.
cassette tape post.
Threatening to murder each other over musical opinions is content. Great content.
Anyway, why
Yeah,
did we split up?
Anyways, Don't Wake Me Up. Yeah, this is the first official album under the Microphones moniker, and I think it's really solid, and it's quite the ambitious beginning for like a studio setting for this project, as it manages to set itself apart from other acts in like the lo-fi indie sphere around the time. I think that sound-wise, this album is rough around the edges, but it manages to create something very interesting and very enjoyable mostly. I like how elements of its sound complements themselves very well, whether that be Phil's vocals and the wall of atmosphere, distortion, and noise. Plus, I have to compliment the drumming on some of these songs too, as that really stood out to me. I think that what Phil gets right on here works well to his advantage, and he manages to pull together some amazing songs, but I do feel like some tracks needed to be expanded upon a bit more, or worked on, with more interesting structures or sounds, as for the most part, the quality of those tracks in particular make it a bit of a slog to listen to. Like, some ideas just get a bit repetitive for me personally, but besides that, there's just a lot of great ideas and songs to be taken away from Don't Wake Me Up, and it pains me to put it this low because I genuinely think it's a great album. It's just, there's better Microphones projects in my opinion.
Yeah, I'd say the same. That it hurts to put this album as low as it is, but don't get me wrong, this album is really good. I think it's pretty underrated in their discography, I'd say. I think this is the album where they were first coming into their their lo-fi sound, because they had released a bunch of previous projects before Don't Wake Me Up, and I think this is the one where they kind of came into their form and started doing what we know as the Microphones nowadays. The album is super consistent and it's very engaging. As Mickey mentioned, the performances from everybody, they just sound super tight, super interesting. Just a very good album through and through. My only complaint is that it can be a bit too consistent sometimes, and there's like not a lot of deviation in the songs. And it will like sort of start to get a little samey in places, but other than that, I mean, like it's a great sound, so I don't really mind. But yeah, I think this album is very good. And if you haven't heard it, I please check it out because I think it's very underrated.
Yeah, sound fucking sucks. I hate it. Sounds a little too much like it ripped off the roller coaster EP by Ryan Venus, which you should stream. No. Okay, no. Yeah, no, I do feel quite guilty putting this at number 5 just because, like, it's great. I love it. It's amazing. And it is, something I do appreciate about it is, like, the Microphones, like, easily their noisiest album, I would say. But it's not noisy in, like, a sort of, like, ear-piercing way. It's more just, like, it has, like, this wall of sound feel to it that's very, like, beautiful and atmospheric. There's, like, a peacefulness in the dissonance, if that makes sense. But my problem with it more lies in the fact that it just feels way less refined than some of their other later records. It's not even... I'm not putting it this low because it's bad or that it's a weak album. I'm just putting it this low because it doesn't stick in my brain as much as some of their other records, and it's not as tightly crafted. You could tell this is a first album when you listen to the rest of their records.
Yeah.
So basically, it fucking sucks. I hate it, frankly.
You know what? I'm
This
right there
band
with
is
you.
like... This band's best album's like a 4, to be honest. All of these are bad.
So yeah, moving on to best and worst tracks. My favorite tracks from Don't Wake Me Up are I'll Be in the Air, Where It's Hotter Part 3, Ocean 123, Don't Wake Me Up, and I Felt You. The worst track in my opinion is I'm in Hell.
My favorite tracks on Mount Erie were The Sun, Solar System, and Universe. My least favorite was Mount Erie.
My favorites on Don't Wake Me Up were Ocean 123, Florida Beach, Where It's Hotter Part 3, I'll Be in the Air, Tonight There'll Be Clouds, and Don't Wake Me Up. My least favorite is I'm in Hell.
Let's see, my favorites are Here with the Summer, Where It's Hotter Part 3, I'll Be in the Air, You Were in the Air, Ocean 123, I'm Getting Cold, and I Am in Hell.
Alright. Moving on to our number 4 picks, I chose It Was Hot, We Stayed in the Water.
Yeah, talk about putting albums way lower than you think they deserve. Yeah, I had to put It Was Hot, We Stayed in the Water at number 4. Actually, top four. It's not that bad.
Yeah,
I'm in the same boat. It pains me, like it hurts even more to put this album at number 4. But yeah, It Was Hot, We Stayed in the Water.
Song Island. I'm alone.
We can do the usual order.
Yeah, okay.
Alright.
So yeah, It Was Hot saw Phil keep on improving and getting better at creating a fully cohesive album that keeps listeners engaged, and he does a damn fine job at doing that. I think sonically this album isn't very dissimilar from what Phil did on the Microphones debut, but to me it feels a lot more expansive, more consistent, and just way more interesting. The songs that with songs that just sound incredibly dense, well crafted, more experimental, and they just sound fantastic in its lo-fi setting. It definitely feels like a warm-up to the next 2 Microphones projects Phil would end up making, but it really goes to show that there is some fine material on here that I would even say stands up to some of the best in Phil's catalogue. If I had anything to complain about, it would be that some tracks just feel like they could have used more interesting push in terms of sounds, but the best tracks on this album are just amazing. Some of them, well, arguably they're hard to live up to, but I think overall this is just another brilliant outing from them. It just keeps that edge that the debut presented, and I think that it's a great project because of that. And of course, because it's like at the bottom half of my list, it pains me to put it there because I genuinely think it's a great project.
Yeah, you know, after the debut, this completely feels like a natural progression. It's a bit more elegant and a bit more meticulous than their debut, and I think a lot of that works in its favor, and it does really kind of sound like the band is coming towards the sound that they would eventually get the most attention and acclaim for on the Glow Part 2. And it's easy to see why a lot of people would consider this to be a bit of a predecessor to the album. I mean, you know, the Glow Part 1 and the Gleam Part 1 are both on this album. There is a direct connection there, but not only that, I do feel like the album kind of dips its toes into that more larger-than-life sound explored on that album. And overall, I still think it's a very unique album, and I still think it holds its own as it's one of the best albums Phil has ever made, which is why having it in the bottom half of this ranking is really not doing it justice. But it's an amazing album, and you know, it's got a lot of memorable track. It's very poignant. The guitar work throughout is brilliant. The production's fantastic. I love Phil's vocals on this thing, especially on tracks like The Glow. And yeah, it's an amazing album.
Yeah, I feel like I'm trying really hard to build up these past couple albums because I mean, even though, you know, people, you know, they know Mount Eerie or Microphones or just Phil Elverum in general for albums like, you know, The Glow Part 2 and Mount Eerie album and Curl Like to Me and stuff like that. This album is really good. It's a really good album, and I feel like it should stand up there with those albums of his because it's an album that is very enjoyable to listen to, not only just from like a sonic standpoint and like a musical standpoint, but especially from where Phil is in his career at this point of the when this album was made. It sounds like a nice transition into a fuller sound, and it feels like the whole band is playing to their fullest and creating interesting and super diverse soundscapes, you know, and starting to dive into all that kind of style of playing and style of music making. And they definitely started to develop into what they wanted to do creatively, and they started to experiment a bit more on this album. It's a very engaging listen. As Nostalgia mentioned, they have parts 1 and 2 for The Glow and The Gleam, and even going back to my Mount Eerie take, I'm sorry, but I have to go back there. With what happens is on this album, this is why I don't know, this song just doesn't work for me, because The Glow, I think, is a perfect length song. It's super engaging. It's like there's just so much stuff going on that pulls you in and doesn't really just, you know, nothing that, not really a lull moment that kind of zones you out. It's very engaging. I think that's what this album is to me, is engaging. It's an engaging listen. And like I said, like they experimented, some of the experiments don't work, but even some of the experiments that don't work are still very engaging listens and very interesting listens. And I think this album, super underrated, even though it is pretty well received, but still I think this album should be up there with the great Phil Elverum projects.
Alright, so, La Cucaracha. Alright, my problem with the... No. Okay. Song Islands. I think this comp is very, very underrated, personally, and I think I don't know if anyone else gets this vibe, but I've always viewed it as probably, like, one of the most, like, sort of pillowy Microphones releases. It's very... a majority of the songs are very soft in the way they're produced, and very relaxed in comparison to maybe like The Glow Part 2, or It Was Hot, or Mount Eerie, or just really any of their other projects. And it has this very beautiful sort of quality to it. It's very like calm, relaxed feel. And I do disagree with the sentiment that it just feels like a compilation, because to me, like, I've always just viewed this as, like, an album, and, like, I might get crucified for this comparison. In the same way that I viewed Building Something Out of Nothing as a Modest Mouse album, I view this Song Islands as a Microphones album. To me, it feels very cohesive and relaxing, and and rather than pulling random songs, I always enjoy listening to this all the way through, because I do think it's legitimately an enjoyable, good listen to a folk record.
Fair enough.
Don't know if I explained my thoughts super well, but...
Yeah.
No, you explained it good. You explained it good.
I mean, yeah, that it's a good album, and that Modest Mouse comp is a good album too.
It is a good comp album.
Another reminder for people who haven't heard it yet to hear it.
True.
So
Also hear Roller Coaster EP by Ryan Bean. Stream now.
Stream now, please. Beg.
Yes.
Anyways, yeah, my favorite tracks from It Was Hot, We Stayed in the Water are Pull, Sand, The Glow, and Something. My least favorite track is Carol Blow.
My favorite tracks on It Was Hot, We Stayed in the Water were The Pull, Ice, Sand, The Glow, The Breeze, and Something. My least favorite track was Organs.
My favorites from It Was Hot were The Pull, Sand, The Glow, Carl Blau, The Gleam, and Something. My least favorite was Drums.
My favorites from Song Islands were Bass Drum Dream, Where It's Hotter, Parts 1, 2, and 3, Heavy Eyes, I'm a Pearl Diver, and Lanterns. My least favorites are The Storm, Feedback, Life, Love, Loop, and Phil Everland's Will.
We're in the top 3. Mm-hmm. We're at the top half of our lists.
Yeah.
And, yeah. Everything from this point up is a 9 to a 10, so just keep that in mind. My number 3 pick is The Microphones in 2020.
My number 3 pick is Don't Wake Me Up.
My number 3 pick is Song Islands.
My number 3 pick It Was Hot, We Stayed in Water.
Hey.
Diversity.
Everyone picked something different.
Yes.
Wow. So yeah, let's go. Yeah, I chose The Microphones in 2020. Phil Elverum's latest album is one that saw him bring back the microphones after 17 years of it being dormant. And I'll just say it's a great way to bring back the Microphones project, because this album is essentially a 45-minute long behemoth of a song that contains various passages in terms of its sonic approach, while also keeping it concise as well. And in terms of its content, it's a reflection on basically Phil's life when he was younger and where he was mentally at, and how that reflected on, you know, his where he's at today, like his time with the Microphones as well, and its beginning and how it gave way to Mount Erie. And it's a really interesting way to bring back the Microphones as a whole, and an interesting, like, an essential listen for anyone who's a fan of Phil's discography. Like, it's unique in his discography for what it attempts to do structurally, and I'm here for it, as since it came out, I've still held it in high regard. I still think it's easily one of Phil's shining moments, and it's easily one of the best albums to come out in 2020. I think that sound-wise, it's brilliant. It's bringing back a lot of somewhat noisy, atmospheric stuff that they did earlier on in the early projects from the Microphones, and it's all just coming together in a really good way. I feel like my only real issue is that some of the passages happen to be quite patience testing, and with the way that this album is structured as one whole thing, it doesn't really warrant a whole lot of replay value for me personally. But that's besides the point, because either way, this is an impressive piece of music. I think that it is a great statement from Phil, and I think that it overall is just a great album. I'll definitely listen to it a lot, but not in terms of, like, on its own. I probably would I don't know where I'm going with that. Just forget what I said there. I had no idea where I was going with that.
Yeah, I chose Don't Wake Me Up, and I admit that I can kind of see why everyone kind of put it lower down the rankings. It is quite rough, and it is quite sloppy at times, but I don't know, for me, those things absolutely make it, like, that much more endearing, and they add so much raw emotion to the music. It's like, when you're listening to albums like The Glow Part 2 or Mount Erie after listening to this album, you can really see that Phil did continue to kind of build upon the sound that was explored and established on Don't Wake Me Up. But even though it's far from as grandiose and as meticulous as those albums, it's just so raw, so emotional. It's got a charm that nothing else later on really has or can match. It feels really nostalgic and really warm and comforting to me. Maybe if I am to completely get rid of all emotion and look at this from an unbiased point of view, then I wouldn't have it as high. But I just absolutely love this album, and I enjoy listening to it a lot more than I do anything I rank lower than it. So I think number 3 is fair.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're just at the point in the list where it's like having almost any of these albums this high makes sense.
Yeah.
From this point onward.
For sure. And I think that kind of ties in with me for my pick, Song Islands. I also I also view this album as like an actual Microphones album. I'll admit that when I first heard it, I did think that it was a studio album, and I was it just made sense to me because I think this album is just like it's this nice collection of tracks that just adds a new layer to Phil's work for me, and it shows him in like this raw and open state that he's in, with the feeling that it's like he's keeping a journal of his experiences, of his current era of the Microphones that he was in at the time of this album. When I listen to it, it feels like that I am sitting in his room just listening to him speak to me through music, and it's very interesting. I feel like it sets the stage for the type of songwriting style that he would do, like where it feels almost journalistic, on some Mount Erie projects and on the Microphones in 2020 project. I feel like this is kind of where it started, and it just feels like a nice, very pleasant listen through and through, and I think that some of his best tracks are on this album, and I think it's a very important album in his discography, and just a very underrated compilation of tracks that people should listen to.
All right. It was hot, we stayed in water. This album is where I think, like, the Microphones really started to refine their sound and their approach, and if I'm honest, I think this is almost as good as The Glow Part 2 in the way that it utilizes noise and relaxing folk instrumentals and just the way it blends the two, as well as the songwriting. It's more like I just put this one lower because it doesn't hit as hard as that album, but I see a lot of similar qualities in the two. They're both very well thought out, they're both very well executed in what they're trying to do, and they both achieve the sort of depressive yet calm vibe that they're going for. And it's just like I've always considered them as like two sides of the same coin, if that makes sense. I say that too much, but does that make sense? No.
Yes.
No, but
it does.
Yeah, but I don't know.
Oh no.
It's almost like I like this band or something. I don't know. They're okay, I guess.
Yeah. Do you like music? I don't know.
No.
I tried it once and never again.
The only music is Avenade and Roller Coaster.
True.
And Post Demon.
I'm not promoting my friends, what?
I only listen to Post Demon.
Exactly.
Is that working out for you?
I can hear with my right eye, not my left. My right ear, not my left.
My right eye.
Yeah, that's how it's working out.
Listening to Pulse Demon too much makes you hear with your
I've
eye.
transcended. I can now see sounds.
You should probably stop listening.
Dude, I'm Trey. I can see.
I can see. Dude,
you're
making me want to listen to You're making me want to listen to Pulse Demon now.
Oh, it's a fun.
I can see with my hands now that I've listened to Pulse Demon.
I feel things. I see.
I have an.
I see it
have
all.
an
I see
eye
it all.
on
I
each
see it
palm
all.
of
I
my
see it
hand.
all. I see it all. I see it all. I see.
You guys need to go to the hospital.
What do you mean they're based?
Pulse Demon's a good album, though. I don't care what anyone says.
My thing with Pulse Demon is like, I can't listen to harsh noise just because like it gives me a headache, but I don't like judge the album for that.
Oh no, I
I just
had a
can't
headache.
like think.
I was okay with it.
Yeah, I just get like migraines from it, so I don't judge it as like a piece of art just because like I can't look at it critically.
Yeah,
Actually,
no,
just
I-
out of
I
interest,
just can't.
nostalgia. Can you just explain why you think it's good?
Post
Just
emo.
first off, I want to
Dude,
understand
it's
that first of all.
fucking hypnotic. It's like I can.
Wasn't this about the microphone?
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
well,
hypnotic.
I'm just curious.
And
I'm just
and just
curious
hypnotic,
about
and
why
especially-
people actually like Pulse Demon.
As I said, it's hypnotic, and like below the harsh noise is like there is melody. I guess I kind of like it for in a far more extreme sense. The same reason why Loveless is my favorite album of all time. I don't know. I just love fucking shit that blows my eardrums out, but below it is very beautiful and has a melody, and I can kind of get that with Pulse Demon.
Loveless Demon, Loveless
Oh
Demon.
my god, what a collab!
Most bad, worst to best.
You have now convinced me to go listen to
It's like
Pulse Demon.
4 hours.
Yeah, that's what Pulse Demon did.
I will. So yeah, moving on to best to worst tracks. I can't really say anything for this, obviously.
Best track, The Glow Part 2. Worst track, The Glow Part 2.
Best track, The
Yeah, that's
Microphones in 2020. The worst track, Microphones in 2020.
My favorite tracks on... Oh, fuck, I was about to read out. It was hot again. My favorite tracks on Don't Wake Me Up. One of my favorite Microphones tracks, Ocean 123. And then Words Hotter, Part 3, I'll Be in the Air, Tonight, There'll Be Clouds, You Are in the Air, Don't Wake Me Up. My least favorite track was I'm in Hell.
My favorites from Song Islands were Bass Drum Dream, Moon Moon, I Lost My Wind, I Can't Believe You Actually Died, I'm a Pearl Diver, the Moon acoustic version, the song Version, Antlers, and the Glow Part 4. My least favorite was You're Standing on the Ground.
My favorites on it was Hot are The Pull, which is like top 5 microphone songs. Just gonna say that. The Glow, The Gleam, Between Your Ear and the Other Ear, and my least favorites are Ice and Something.
Are in the top 2.
Yup.
My number 2 pick is Mount Erie.
My number 2 pick is Microphones in 2020.
My number 2 pick is also Microphones in 2020.
My number 2 pick is The Glow Part 2.
Oh, shit.
Hey.
God damn.
We got an edgelord on the podcast.
Someone had to do it.
When are you never the edgelord on the podcast?
Oh,
Let's be real.
No, the Deftones episode was when I wasn't the edgelord. That was my most normal list.
Yeah.
You two are
So yeah,
the
one
anyways,
time
I'm
that
normal.
episode.
Okay. My number 2 pick was Mount Erie, and you know, Mount Erie would be the last album under the Microphones name for a while, and by the title, it gave way to Mount Erie, but it definitely feels like a project definitively from the Microphones, and a continuation of It Was Hot and The Glow Part 2. Each track on here has 5 stages, and I feel like as a cohesive unit, they work well. I love the concept on this album. It's written very well. I love the way that the lyrics and the instrumentation are accompanying each other, and they tie in with the concept. Instrumental-wise, this album also covers a lot of things sonically, like, you know, ambient drone, folk, and even some tribal moments, specifically on the behemoth of an opening track, which, honestly, I just think it's incredible. I don't care what anyone says. I can get why you may think it's self-indulgent, but I love it. I just love it to bits. And, each track instrumentally is pretty engaging in my opinion, and in comparison with other albums from Phil, it sounds like his most musically confident and arguably more gargantuan. I love the way that this album flows, and like I mentioned, I love how concise of an experience this album is for me personally, and especially with its sonics and its concept. If this was truly meant to be the last Microphones album at the time, I would say that this was just a well-made and amazing send-off to this project, but of course, you know, Microphones in 2020 happened, and I'm not complaining about that. Honestly, I don't have anything to complain about this album in particular. I'm just going to shut up and say it. I don't care what anyone says. I think this album is a masterpiece. It is a 10 for me. And you are all disgusting for putting it so fucking low.
I'm sorry.
No, you're not.
Yeah, I'm not really.
Just saying, this is content. I genuinely don't care.
Yeah.
I chose microphones in 2020, and to me this feels like a bit of a victory lap for Phil, as he kind of explores his past and early music making ventures in the form of a single, like, stripped back acoustic piece. And to say that this record is a slow burner is definitely a massive understatement. This record goes in and out like waves. It takes a long time to build up, but when it does, it's so rewarding. The sheer simplicity and repetitiveness of the music just completely reels me in. It entrances me, and when Phil tells a story, every single word connects and reverberates. And personally, I think some of the most powerful moments in his whole discography are the moments on this thing where the guitars kind of begin to build up into this like loud, fuzzy wall of sound that just adds so much intensity and weight to a lot of what Phil is saying, and adds a lot of emotion to certain parts of the story. And it's just one of the best albums I've heard this year, and one of the best memories from this fucking shit show of a year was sitting down and with a cup of coffee and just getting through this thing and watching the YouTube video that accompanies it, which I think is perfect. The slideshow of photographs just add that much more emotion to it and that much more depth to it. And it's a fucking incredible album. It's one of my favorite music releases this year, and one of the best things Phil's ever done, be it with the microphones or as Mount Erie. I think this is a masterpiece.
Yeah, I mean, I have pretty much the same sentiments. This album is incredible. Like that's just all I can say. This album is amazing. It just feels like a lovely retrospect of the journey that both Phil and just the fans of Phil have been on since their first album and the subsequent projects that were after Microphones, like Mount Erie. It's just a very engaging listen through the entire runtime. It's only it's just only one track. It's just one long song, but it's such a joy to listen to. And as Nostalgia put it, also watching it along with the YouTube video that accompanied it just really put it all together. I feel like this album is like not only an album that Phil needed to make, whether it be for therapy or just something he needed to say, or if he just made it just to bring back the old moniker. I think it's also an album for the fans for sure, and it feels like such a rewarding listen because of how engaging it is. Like the more you listen close, the more listens I give it, the more rewarding it is of a listen. When you pay attention to all the details that are happening, it's a fantastic experience. And I remember when I was listening to the album and like the song was about to end, we were getting down to like the last few minutes of the album, and then Phil says the line, I took my shirt off, and like those like sweeping choirs, like, oh man, that was such a powerful moment. Like that was definitely one of my favorite musical experiences of this year. He did, and it was magical. It was very beautiful.
It's such a beautiful set of pecs.
Phil pecs. But yeah, no, this album's amazing. Like, some people were saying, it's like overhyped, or like, it's just getting like a critical acclaim by birthright because of the Microphones moniker. But no, I fully disagree. This album is amazing.
All right. Globe Part 2. What do I even say about this album that hasn't already been said? Like, it's good. It's a masterful combination of noise and indie folk and experimentation that creates a fully unique, interesting listen with a lot of emotional power and impact. You didn't need me to tell you that. But I have to explain why it's number 2. It has I'm gonna get killed. It has a lot of fluff in it. I'm gonna be honest. Like, the interludes are pointless, and it drags a bit. Like, it's... Let me double check the length real quick.
It's a bit over an hour.
I can agree with the interludes part, honestly. I can agree
It
with the
does
interludes part.
not need to be an hour and 6 minutes, if I am entirely honest. It really only needs to be about 50. Like, there does not need to be a silent 7 minutes at the end of My Warm Blood.
You can always just...
Like, there's no reason to sit through that, if I am honest. I love it to death. This is not me saying it's not fantastic. This is just me saying, this is why I have this at number 2, as opposed to number 1 like most people. That's the main reason.
I can respect that. I can actually respect that.
Yeah, that's fair.
I can agree with the interludes part, though, honestly.
Thank you, because I've thought I was, like, insane for years, because, like, most of my friends have it at, like, a 10, and they're like, what the fuck, Charlise, be quiet, and I'm like,
I mean, that's one of the reasons, I mean, spoiler alert, that's one of the reasons I don't have it at a 10 either, just because it's, you know, I'll get into it a little bit, but, yeah, the interludes, I just think, could do without.
Sorry, Matthew.
See, I'm the special snowflake here. I have it at 10.
I have it as a 10 as well.
Aren't you special? You libtard. Liberals with the glow part 2 at a 10. Based and red-pilled people with it at an 8.
You have it at a 10? Shut the fuck up, you liberal.
Hey, what do you know, chud?
What do you know, you fucking liberal chud?
Liberal chud.
Liberal chud. It sounds like a terrible, like, fucking... It's like what you'd name a random character in a video game. Liberal chud.
Oh, I'd love to see that.
It literally sounds like a character name I'd give to... I'd pick when playing, like, fucking KOTOR or something.
I was literally thinking that. I was like, I should name my character that.
Just like Bastila being like, liberal chud, help me.
Next time... Dude, next time I boot up Skyrim, I'm just gonna fucking put that as my character's name. That is perfect.
Yeah, my playthrough for Knights of the Republic 2, I'm naming my character that.
Fuck that, I'm naming my son.
The Oblivion be like, liberal chud, have you heard of the High Elves?
You're naming your son Liberal Chud.
Liberal my parent character. Who cares?
First name Liberal, last name Chud.
Yeah.
Middle name Chud.
Last name Phil Everland.
No, I'll have 2 kids.
Just
call
as
one
one word.
Call one Chud and see who becomes a Democrat, who becomes a Republican. Chud.
Which one's a radical
Democrat, and
centrist?
Liberal will become a Republican, and everyone will bully them.
No, they just both become edgy centrists.
Oh yeah.
Radical centrism. It's like they terrorize anyone that isn't a centrist.
You're not even looking at all the sources. There's good ideas on both sides.
Imagine picking one side.
Guys, you need to pick on a matter-by-matter basis.
Remember when we were talking about the microphone?
No.
No, I don't.
Oh yeah, okay. I'm the only one who has to say best and worst track, so I'm just gonna get it out of the way.
Go ahead.
Alright, my favorites are I Want Wind to Blow, The Glow Part 2, which is my favorite microphone song, The Moon, You'll Be in the Air, Samurai Sword. My least favorites are all of the interludes and My Warm Blood.
Well, shouldn't you say your worst tracks, Mickey?
Yes.
Worst tracks.
Anyways.
Oh, right, no, you did Mount... Yeah, no, never mind. I'm a dummy.
Yeah. I think I love all the tracks on Mount Erie, but if I had to pick a select few, I would pick The Sun, Mount Erie, and Solar System, and I have no least favorite tracks. They're all perfect.
He's a number 1.
Did you not pick?
One.
Do you not have to pick?
Oh yeah, I
you
chose.
both picked microphones 20
tough choice. Let me think.
I forgot. Shut it. I completely forgot.
Favorite track, Skydiving the City, Just
thing
smile and
you
wave,
record
boys.
sound
Close fists and battle antics.
Transform sound into
Pure
electric
misery.
frequencies, and it was released in 2020. Something like that.
What the fuck? What the
Yeah,
fuck did I start?
I'll list
Fuck
my
me.
favorites and least favorites real quick. My favorites were my least favorites were and that's
Yeah,
it.
no,
Everywhere at the
based-
end of time.
based.
Yeah.
My favorites were liberal and chud.
Yes, there you go.
Yin and yang.
I should have just said nothing. I made myself look like a complete fucking idiot there. Oh my god.
Oh man.
So yeah.
No,
Anyways.
Anyways, moving on to our number one picks. I chose The Glow Part 2.
Guess what?
What?
I agree.
Oh man, I wanted to be so base and pick something different, but I just gotta give it to The Glow Part 2.
Mine was the Glow Part 7.
We need
That's
that.
underrated. That's an underrated one, honestly.
No, mine's the microphones in 2020. Fuck y'all.
Yeah. What? I like the album.
No, all of you hate it. You didn't put it at number 1, and if you have it below number 1, that means you don't like the album. That's the rule.
Shit, my bad.
I forgot.
All right.
The only one where that
That's the
doesn't
golden
apply
rule.
is Eminem because all of his albums are 10.
Yeah.
Revival is
album?
a fat
No.
fucking 10.
This album, not as good as Kamikaze. Still pretty good, though. Nem
Relapse is
strikes
the
again.
greatest. Relapse is the greatest album of
Dude,
all time.
I fucking
10 out of 10.
I did a fucking Eminem binge as a joke after you guys released the podcast, and I regret it because I gave Relapse like an 8 out of 100.
That's true.
That shit is horrible.
I have a comical time with it. I think it's funny.
I think it's
It's
I
so
don't
bad
even-
that it's funny for me, hence why I have it at...
I don't
it's so
even-
bad that it's funny for me, hence why I have it at a 5.
I don't even laugh at it. I'm just upset the entire time.
Someone's gonna click on this because they want a microphone's worth the best, and they're gonna be like, "Why are these guys talking about fucking Pulse Demon, Eminem, and Skyrim?"
What is a liberal
What's
chunk?
up with these
You should just
chuds?
put that. You
He's
should
a
put that in
liberal
the title
chud.
as well. You
Yeah.
should put that in the title as well. In fucking brackets. Just put in. Just put in politics, Skyrim, and Eminem.
Worst the best.
No, just in parentheses, liberal chuds as the guests.
Liberal and Chud are the guests.
Yes.
I'm making
yeah,
that my server nickname. Somebody be chud.
Um,
I get it.
You both get. Anyways, yeah. Let's talk about our number one picks. Yeah, The Glow Part 2. The Glow Part 2 is everything that up to that point Phil was building up to, as to me this is easily one of Phil Elverum's best works, and I have no remorse in calling this album a masterpiece. Honestly, it's kind of difficult to talk about this thing because the music speaks for itself, and I don't think that I have the full capacity to talk about it in depth, but I will try my best. The album is a behemoth that never loses its edge for its entirety. I think that the charm of this album all boils down to what Phil does sonically with the unrefined lo-fi production. It's expansive with what grounded covers like the wonderful ambient drone passages, the harsh distorted noise rock, and the blissful, potent indie folk songs. It all feels like it's in its right place meticulously. Like everything is placed and in the right. Everything is in its right place, and it just flows so immaculately, in my opinion.
That's right, boy.
I shouldn't have said that. Phil himself on this album is brilliant. His soft vocals work so well with this sound palette, and his lyrical themes are some of his best. It may not be as blunt or as upfront as some of his other things, but I love hearing what he has to say about these existential and emotional themes. The track list hasn't really got much in the way of a skip for me, except for those 2 interludes. I just can't get enough of this whole album besides those. It took me a little bit to fully appreciate this, but since I've heard this album a good few times in preparation for this and some in my free time, I definitely will be returning to this album a fair bit. Honestly, it's slowly going up there as one of my favorite albums ever. If being honest, I think it's amazing. It blows me away every time.
It's just so funny in the server seeing chud is typing.
Yeah, I chose The Glow Part 2 as well. And maybe I'm just an imbecile, but I just have such a hard time discussing and dissecting albums that mean a lot to me. And The Glow Part 2 is a fucking masterpiece, but I just feel like I don't have that much to input in on it. It's just every second of this album is a different highlight for me. Every second is beautiful and perfect. I think everything Phil and company tried to execute here, they just do it perfectly. Phil's vocals are incredible. They're vulnerable. I love the songwriting. It's among the best that Phil's ever done. The experimentation is perfect as well. Whether it's harsh distortion or pounding drumming or soft guitar feedback, all of these effects are just incorporated perfectly into the core, very folky indie sound. And it's one of the best albums ever made, in my opinion, and it's a 10. I always feel bad giving 10s because I'm like, nah, no way it's a 10. No way, there's nothing wrong with this album, but I just cannot. I'd have to be grasping at straws to find any flaws here. I absolutely love this album. Even the interludes.
It can't be a 10. It can't be as good as Encores.
It can't be as good as FAC.
Fact.
Oh no. But yeah,
Nem Part 2.
No.
You know what? It's interesting that you bring that up, nostalgia, where it's like it's difficult talking about albums that you have at 10s, or like at least difficulty talking about this album in particular, because I mean, for me, I kind of I'm gonna have to address something in a second, but that's the thing. I mean, it's just one of these albums where it's like, it's just an album that if you get it, you get it, and if you don't, then you don't. That's just kind of how it is. It's just like it's just the way that it's structured and the way that it flows and just the overall listening experience. It's just one of those albums. It's really good, and there's not really like some secret formula that was used to craft this album. It's just really good, and it's coming from the mind of somebody who just kind of put it all out there. You know, it's a very vulnerable listen. It's very emotional. It's very engaging. It's a very anxious and honest album, and it uses, you know, the lo-fi production to its fullest potential. I mean, it's not perfect. There are a few imperfections that kind of butt in to the music a little bit, like the interludes and stuff like that. But I mean, other than that, it's kind of it's a certified sad boy classic. But for me, this album, I will have to address. This album does things to me. Like, this album is probably the most difficult album that I can listen to, just because it's a very anxious album, and I think it's probably the most anxiety-inducing album I've ever heard in my life. And I'm working on a write-up for this album, and I kind of want to tagline it into like the description of this episode, because it's more like I can, you know, talk about this album for a long time, but it's not for the reasons that most people talk about this album for. So I'll just leave it at it's just a great album. It's Glow Part 2. You already know. Good stuff.
Phil do be kind of sad.
Just a little bit.
Okay, so I get to be the contrarian. Okay. This is my favorite Microphones album just because I think it is just the most refined one. There's like every second of the, I believe is it 42 or 44 minutes? I don't know,
45.
45? Every second of the 45 minutes is important. It's earned. It's like, it invests you in it. The narrative that Phil is telling about him growing up, making the Microphones, the origin of the band, how he went on to make the Glow Part 2, Mount Eerie or any of the other albums is done with such detail and, like, it's so full of so much heart, and it really gives you insight into how Phil ended up the way he did today and how he is as a person now. And it's whenever I listen to this album, just sonically, it always makes me imagine I'm on, like, a raft in, like, a gentle river, kind of, and just, like, a forest, and I'm just moving down the stream. It has that very, like, natureful, calming effect on me, and that's something that I've always really appreciated about it, and it's genuinely one of my favorite albums from this year. And I mean, I don't know if that says very much, because I have fucking Lil Darky in my top 5 for the year, but I'm a bad person, but point still stands. This is a really masterful album, and this is the type of album that I've always wanted the Microphones to make.
Lil Darky do be slapping though.
He really do.
Yawn.
Yeah. Hey.
Come on, bro.
Silence, heathen.
Alright, best and worst tracks, Dear
Rap
Misery,
music.
Have It Your Way, Rap Music, The Glow Part 7, the entire Roller Coaster EP, worst tracks, Liberal Chud.
Yeah, that was a bit of a left turn. I didn't know how to feel about that.
So yeah, fine. Anyways, my favorite tracks from The Glow Part 2 are the title track, You'll Be in the Air, The Gleam Part 2, I Felt My Size, Samurai Sword, Map, and The Mansion. I have no least favorite tracks.
My favorite tracks on The Glow Part 2. I Want the Wind to Blow, The Glow Part 2, The Moon, Headless Horseman, Instrumental, The Mansion, The Gleam Part 2, Map, I Want to Be Cold, I Am Bored, I Felt My Size, I Felt Your Shape, Samurai Sword. I do not have a least favorite track.
My favorite tracks were I Want Wind to Blow, The Glow Part 2, The Moon, The Mansion, Map, You'll Be in the Air, I Want to Be Cold, I Am Bored, I Felt Your Shape, and Samurai Sword. My least favorites were the Something interludes and My Warm Blood. And I will say that The Glow Part 2 is his best track. Why do I think it's his best track? Guess you'll have to read the write-up and find out.
You're just self-promoing now.
No.
Who doesn't self-promo on this podcast anyway? Shout out
I
to
don't
Ryan Diaz. Go check out his Roller Coaster EP.
I don't self-promo, I just promo for my boyfriend, Kay. Kay.
It's funny because it's like, I mean, our accounts get like linked in these descriptions. So,
Follow CLJesse on Album of the Year.
I mean, that's going to be in the description anyways. Oh my god, we did it.
We did.
Oh my
We
god.
talked about microphones for an hour. We talked into microphones about microphones for an hour.
We talked about microphones through our microphones, and we went off topic so much, and you made me have a mental breakdown. Yay!
I mean, I think it was entertaining, so...
It was entertaining, I'll give it that.
Good times.
So
Can't
yeah,
wait for us to invent more political identities next episode.
Actually, speaking of next episode, that's a good segue.
Transition.
Whoa.
Transition. So yeah,
Trans. Right.
So, yeah.
Yes.
Exactly. W.
W.
So yeah, this has been the Microphone's Worst to Best. Next week we are going to be doing an MF Doom Worst to Best, and I think I'll just announce what we're doing the week after as well, because that will be the last Worst to Best of 2020. And for that one we are doing Blink 182.
Yes! What a send off!
Yeah.
What a send off!
What a send off! Yeah, I'm gonna fucking cry.
With special guest Joe.
Who's
Mama.
Joe?
I can't believe you fell
Just
for
kidding,
it.
it's Joe
Mama.
Biden. Joe Biden's coming on the Tape podcast.
Hey, Peter.
Joe Biden loves fucking Blink.
Be quiet, you lying pony boy face soldier.
So yeah, anyways, thanks for checking out today's episode of the Taped Podcast. Thanks to Charlise and Josh for coming on for today. It was a pleasure having you on once again.
You're welcome for being loud.
Thanks for having us and causing a ruckus.
You'll expect to see them again in 2021 anyway.
And in 2020 as well. Josh is going to be on the Blink-182
yeah, Josh is going to be on.
Oh, I can't wait.
You guys are getting rid of me for a while. Pretty good.
We'll be anticipating your return because we need that content.
True. I'll piss everyone off in 2021 as well.
Yes.
So yeah, with that being said, thanks so much for checking out today's episode of the Taped Podcast. Necessary links are going to be in the description to all of our Album of the Year pages, Josh's Globe Part 2 review, me and Nostalgia's individual channels, and yeah, see ya.
Bye.
Yeah.
See ya.